So, Richard, can you tell me why the Assured Performance Process is needed?
Thank you. NEF developed the Assured Performance Process that we call APP because of our growing realisation of the performance gap between how buildings actually perform and how they're supposed to. So if, for example, you look at data that comes from the government's Innovate UK programme, they spent £7 million identifying that there was a factor of 2 gap between energy and carbon emissions associated with building energy use in use compared to how it should be. Some other work by government has actually shown that in 96% of cases in new homes, they don't actually meet the minimum indoor air quality standards laid down by government, which is a staggering percentage. And finally, one of the other issues which is related to both indoor air quality and energy use, which is overheating risk, we're seeing an increasing number of homes suffering from overheating. So you actually begin to see people retrofitting air conditioning to them to deal with just that, particularly in flats.
So, why is the performance gap important?
Well, put in a nutshell, we're putting up homes which use twice as much energy, so cost twice as much to operate as they should do. We put up buildings where the air quality and overheating risk are such that it begins to affect people's well-being and health. And on top of all of that, we're simply not meeting the very government policies that have been put in place to tackle climate change, fuel poverty, and other issues such as well-being and productivity.
So, what's the cause of the performance gap?
Well, that's a very big question, and of course in practice there are hundreds of reasons often why there's a performance gap in terms of particular technical solutions within buildings. But underlying all of that, there are perhaps 2 or 3 key reasons why we end up with buildings with such a large performance gap. The first is that a large part of the construction industry actually operates according to design requirements rather than placing an emphasis on in-use performance. The reason they do that is that government requirements, planning requirements are all focused on design rather than how buildings will actually perform in use. This tends to mean that the whole construction supply chain focuses on those design targets as well. And because they're usually trying to achieve the buildings at lowest cost and complete their job and be paid, what you tend to find is that the buildings as designed don't in practice work as well as they should do. On top of that, perhaps a second issue is to do with skills and the construction industry. We've gone through quite a revolution in how buildings are required to be constructed to ensure that they're both airtight, well ventilated and energy efficient. The challenge is that the regulations tend to drive people towards certain elements of construction, for example making sure that buildings are built tight, but we don't have the skills in place, nor do we have regulatory checks to ensure that they're ventilated correctly. So it's a mixture of the focus by government being on design, and it's a mixture also of the industry responding to that and simply not having the skills that are necessary in place to understand their impact of what they're putting up and how they're constructing things will be on buildings in use in terms of all those areas that the Assured Performance Process covers.
So, how does the Assured Performance Process work?
The whole Assured Performance Process is based on the concept that you have to set targets right at the outset of the development as to what you want by way of energy, carbon, indoor air quality and overheating during in-use phase of the building. Once you've done that, you need to identify the key risks and mitigation strategies that will basically affect those performance targets at each stage in the development process. This requires someone to champion that and someone who's actually got sufficient skills to make sure that those objectives aren't lost. And that's where the APP assessor, the Assured Performance Process assessor, comes in. These are experts accredited by the National Energy Foundation who can check that your development, the development that's under investigation, can actually meet its particular targets.
So how do I find out more?
Oh, that's easy. All you need to do is go to our website, www.assuredperformanceprocess.org.uk, or phone one of the many members of the team. They're all detailed on that website. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.